Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sabrina and I'm back with another Excel tutorial for you. Now, if this is your first time here and you're looking to develop your Excel skills, then start now by subscribing and hitting that bell icon so that you don't miss out on any new videos. Okay, so in my previous video, we started to explore the capabilities of data validation in Excel, and we learned how to create a simple drop-down list based on a comma-separated list or a range of cells. Now, in this video, we're going to investigate this feature in more detail, where we're going to learn how to create cascading drop-down list that displays choices depending on the value selected in the first drop-down. So to put it simply, we will make an Excel data validation list based on the value of another list. Okay, so let's get started. Now, if you look at my spreadsheet, you can see that I've got two columns. So I've got column A displaying different fruits, okay, and column B displays different vegetable products, all right? Now, on the right-hand side, I basically want to create a dependent drop-down list, where in column E, I would basically select the food type. So that would either be fruit or vegetable, okay? And then in the next cell, I would select the specific product, which would basically be one of these options in these cells, okay? So for fruit, it would be these options. And if vegetable is selected, it will be these options. So my dependent drop-down list will basically I would select the food type. So if I select fruit, okay, under my food type, my product drop-down list will basically change and only show me the options for fruit. But if I choose vegetable in my food type drop-down, then my product drop-down will change and only show me the products for vegetables. Okay, so it will basically work dynamically in that sense. The product drop-down will be dependent on the choice or the selection that I make in the food type drop-down list. Okay, right, so let's get started and let me show you how you would do that. Okay, so to create the first drop-down list, you would just basically follow the same process as creating a simple drop-down list as we saw in my previous video. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of my cells where I want to insert the drop-down fields. You would then go up to the Data tab, which is already selected for me, okay? And then you would go to the Data Tools group. You would then click on the drop-down arrow on the right of Data Validation. So that's your Data Validation command there. So if you click on the drop-down arrow, and then you want to click on Data Validation. So this will open up the Data Validation dialog box. Okay, this is where we're going to configure our drop-down field. Under the Settings tab, you want to go to the Allow field and click on the drop-down arrow and select List, because we want to create a drop-down list. Okay, and then under your source field, so in your source field, you basically want to choose the options for your drop-down list. And the drop-down list we're creating here is for food type. So the options will either be fruit and vegetable. So what you can do is if you click into the source field, you can just literally go and select the cells. So I'm just going to select A3 to B3. Okay, so that's fruit and vegetable. So those are the two options for my food type drop-down list. So once you've selected your source field, you can then go ahead and click OK. Okay, so drop-down fields have now been added into my food type column. So if I click into the first cell, you can see I've got a drop-down arrow appearing in the bottom right-hand corner of that cell. So if you click on that drop-down arrow, you'll now see that I've got two options. So I can either select fruit or vegetable. Okay, so that's worked perfectly. Now the second drop down. Now remember, the second drop down, we want to make this a dependent drop down because we want that drop down list to change based on our selection in our food type drop down. Okay, so whatever we select in the food type, we want the product drop down list to change accordingly and only shows the relevant products. So to create a dependent drop down, what you need to do is you need to create a named range. Okay, so what I mean by that is we need to highlight all of the options under fruit, okay, like so. And we need to give this selection a name. So what you would do there is you would select all of your data. So I'm just going to highlight and select all of my fruit options and my vegetable options, okay, including the headings. And then you would go up to the formulas tab. And then you want to go to the defined names group. And then you should see a command called create from selection. So if you hover your mouse over this command, a pop-up box will appear and it will tell you that this command will automatically generate names from the selected cells. All right, so what that's telling you is that it will automatically generate a name for the cells that you've selected. And then you can reference those names when you work with formulas or when we start working with our data validation lists, okay? So you click on create from selection and that will open up this little box here. Now, if you read the top sentence, it says create names from values in the. Now you've got top row selected and you've got left column selected. So this is basically saying, what do you want me to name your selection? Now, what you want to do here is you want to untick left column and only have top row selected. The reason why I'm doing that is because my headings are in the top row of my selection, right? So I want to call my values fruit. Okay, so all of this list here should be named fruit and all of that list there should be named vegetable. So I'm going to take the top row as my headings or has my names for the values that I've selected, and then you would click OK. Now, to see whether that's been saved, what you would do is if you go to the name box, which is on the top left-hand corner where you see your cell reference number, if you click on the drop-down arrow there, you'll see that your names have been created. So you can see fruit has been created and vegetable has been created. Okay, so that's where you can find your names. And if I just click away from my selection of cells, if I just click into a blank cell there and go back to my name box, if I now select fruit, what you'll see is that it's now highlighting all the values that are named by fruit, okay? And if I go back to the name box and select vegetable, it goes to all the values for the vegetable, okay? So it basically takes you to the cell range that's referenced in the name. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to create the product drop-down list, which will be our dependent drop-down list. So when we create this dependent drop-down list, we would reference the names that we've just created, okay, in our source field. So again, just highlight all the cells where you want to insert these drop-down fields. You then go up to the Data tab, and then go to the Data Tools group, and then click on the drop-down arrow on the right of Data Validation, and then select Data Validation. So this will open up the data validation dialog box there. Okay, and then under settings, in the settings tab, you want to go to the allow field, click on the drop down arrow on the allow field and select list because we're creating a drop down list. And then in the source, okay, this is where you want to now put in the indirect formula. So here what you would do is you would type equals indirect open bracket, and you want to reference the food type cell. So I'm just going to select the first one, which is E4. Okay, and you'll see that the dollar signs have been automatically inserted in, which is fine. And then you would close your bracket, and then you would click OK. Now you will get this error message where it will say that the source currently evaluates to an error. Do you want to continue? So you just want to basically go ahead and click yes. And now what you'll find is that when you select your food types, if I select fruit, my product drop down should change and only show me the options for fruits. So if I click on the drop down, there you go. So I can only see fruit options. Okay, I can't see any vegetables in there. But if I change my food type now to vegetable and go to my product, you'll see that my drop down changes and I can now only see my vegetable products. Okay, so the product drop down is dependent on the selection made in the food type drop down. Okay, and that's it. That's how you create a dependent drop down list. I hope that's not been too confusing and that's been useful for you. If it has, please do like and share the video so that it can reach out to more people. If you have any questions, please do put it in the comment section and I'll come back to you as soon as I can. And do consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on any new videos. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.